Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Battle Rap Resume. This is yet another one of our classic event rewinds. We are looking back into the catalogues of history and we are celebrating these incredible events that have gone down, you know, on Don't Flop or other leagues otherwise. We've got a King of the Dot World Domination 2-1 that I'm prepping my notes for. Me and Jonathan Rimmer are going to record that very soon. Just before we get to today's guest, today's event, please follow the show at Battle Rap Resume. Get in touch with me, battlerapresume@gmail.com if you want to correspond, if you want to ask me questions. I answer those on the Ask Battle Resume episodes. If you want to come on the show, you want to do a top 10 or a top 5 or a countdown or a classic event rewind, let me know. It's always great to have listeners on, and I love doing it. So get in touch with me there. Patreon.com/BattleRapResume if you want to support the show, you want to give back. Everything goes on there first. All the masterminds, all the interviews with Soul, etc. Anything you want to hear is on the Patreon first. Leave us a review on iTunes. But very happy to be welcoming a real OG fan. His first Don't Flop attendance was 2009. Sean, how's it going, man?
Yeah, it's good. I'm good, thanks, Tom.
It boggles my mind, like, because, you know, I've been quite a big fan for a long time now, but to go in that era, you saw the original Oshea Sensa, is that right?
Yeah, I saw this, yeah, long time. That was the one where Thesaurus was supposed to come.
Yeah, and battle three people.
Yeah, it was, Truth, Respect Behind Arc.
Yeah.
I
don't know if anyone's ever actually battled three people in one night. I don't think it's ever happened in battle rap, but I mean, if anyone could have done it, Saurus could have done it. You know?
Or Sensa had a go.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he had some good matches there. Yeah. So, Sean, great to have you on the show, man.
Thank you.
Where does it start for you as a battle fan out of interest? How do you first get into this?
Mike Assassin. Absolutely. Yeah. It was just back in the old jump off days when you had to download the videos. It was. I used to go up to my nan and granddad's house up just off the Holloway Road. They were testing out Wi-Fi up on because they didn't have any at their house, right. And we used to we'd hang out the window. You could just about get a bar on the laptop. Right. And Mike Assassin against Stig, Mike Assassin against Iron Solomon, all these ones. They took about 2 hours to download. Yeah. Yes, it's sad when you think about it.
Yeah, and like when we had Pamphlet recently on the To The Test 7 rewind, I like having people for these episodes that were there at the events, and you were there. I'm very jealous. You were at To The Test 10, the legendary event, right?
Yeah. It was brilliant event. My favourite event I've ever been to.
I mean, it seems like Don't Flop moved up a gear, didn't they? Really, with this event, they're really putting their flag in the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was definitely the pinnacle for me. Like after that, things in terms of views and attendances boomed, but for me, that was the absolute peak. Was that event? I absolutely loved it. It was just looking at the card, looking at it now. It was people that are good, went on to be good, but they were good then. And it was it was brilliant. I mean, you listen to when he's when he's hosting the events, and it all sort of went sour as years went on. But you look at it there, he's just buzzing. Yeah, it wasn't like. I mean, I know that day was the day that Blizzard and Grist started popping. It was like hundreds of thousands of views were going on that weekend. But it wasn't about views at the time. It was about. It was about those boys that were running it at the time, and everything just came together. And it wasn't about money yet, but it was. It was great. It was it was just the way that it all came together at the time. It peaked.
And this is a 2-day event, and if you're unfamiliar with the concept of these episodes, we're going to basically go through, myself and Sean, and touch on every single battle that went down. We aren't necessarily going to give you a dissertation on JC versus Blunt Frank, for example, but, we're going to recollect, really. I think a lot of these battles are very, very famous. People are going to be familiar with the Lunacy and Matter 2-on-2 against Philly and Zim. They're going to be familiar with Zain versus Grist, Blizzard versus Lego. All the way down the card as well, there's some fantastic battles that go through. But, Sean, one of the unique things about this event when you look into the crowd, and I think it gives it that atmosphere, that edge. It was a 14 and over, wasn't it? There's a lot of young kids there.
Yeah, it really was. And the thing is, and the ones that weren't the kids, they were like uni heads as well. Right. And I remember in the lead up to it, it was talking to a few people when they were preparing for their battles. They were specifically tailoring their their rounds for this young kind of crowd. And for some people it worked, and some people it didn't work. But yeah, we'll get into some of them. We'll get into some of them. But yeah, it was a young crowd. Without that.
And, you know, the visual of this as well, Don't Flop has gone to wardrobe many, many times. I think Distinction was another big success there. Whereas, say, 6.5 Birthday, great event, in my opinion, underrated event. You know, the crowd wasn't really there. But here, there's just so many people in front of these battlers and behind them as well. It just gives it such an aura.
Yeah. It was one where it looks different on camera to the way it did on the day, but... It was definitely a big crowd. It wasn't what we were used to at the time.
And we've got a fuck ton of battles to get through, so we might as well kick it off with a battle that makes a lot of sense to kick off an event like this. Two people who were new at the time, who are pretty much legends in the UK scene now, who are still battling regularly, still fantastic. This is Pedro versus Zain.
Zain's a wasted amateur, I'll preparate to batter you, I'll punch you in your face, you land with destination Canada. I got a better face on camera, my temper rage is aggier. You're a bigger fucking dickhead than the Eddie Vegas character. You're a cunt just listen. You're a cunt just like him, I wanna get your face and strangle. I'm punching the chin, your fucking head is like a camel's. Eddie Vegas trying to rule and flop a game that he can't handle. But since I don't know him, I'ma fuck you up for him trying to take down all the battles. I'm on some devilish terrorist shit, call it the Genesis gone wrong. So if you're trying to chat like my squad's not strong, when I flip like Jeff Hardy, expect a swanton bomb. Yo, fuck this big on my fucking lead crew, you might know it's not long. I've already made this spastic, and I'd be lying if I said your bird's attractive. But you might as well call me Richard Branson, the way I've got that Virgin Active.
It's hard for me to like drag quotables for that one, but I just remember it being early in the day, and it was like, you know, everyone's got there, it's big crowd, you don't really know, you know, it was probably running late. I can't remember, but it probably was, and it was like, how's this one going to kick off? And it was just like the energy of these two. It was the way to kick it off.
Yeah, and as organisers, they know what they're doing. It's interesting that Pedro kicks off to the Test 10. Pedro also kicks off 4th Birthday against Enigma. So, you know, they put him out front. They know what he's going to do. And both of these guys aren't quite as seasoned as perhaps they were at this time, but the crowd is lapping it up. People excited. You know, Zain saying, you would have thought you were a feminist, the way you couldn't handle innuendo, and you know, all this sort of various stuff there. But yeah, not too much to say on this battle, but I think perfect as a sort of entree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It kicked it off. Everyone, there was the energy. Because the thing is, it's not... these two aren't really going to come out with the in-jokes. And with a lot of the type of crowd that you were there, I think it kind of showed as the day went on that they wanted that slapstick. And it was, these guys, they put it in your face.
Yeah, and I think, we'll touch on the battle in a moment, but I think Briggzy versus Soul is a brilliant example of that. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, and I'm not bitter in any way, but no, Soul, you know, outrights every round, but Briggzy clearly wins the battle because he just says, like, Jed's a stupid name.
Yeah. I think he said something about the gingers have got soul in that one.
Yeah, that was pretty fire punch actually. Yeah.
That was like, I watched that one the other day, and the one thing that I was kind of thinking was, if that battle was right now, and Soul came with exactly the same material, I think he'd probably win.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I mean, he'd win because of the way that he would deliver it. But without a shadow of a doubt, Briggzy won that one.
Yeah. And the second battle of the day is probably the most famous Don't Flop tryout of all time. It doesn't even have tryout in the name. These guys set the room alight. Dialect versus Double L.
This guy's an idiot. I'll rip him apart. See, I knew this guy was a prick from the start, but he deserves a round of applause. This is the first time he's been in a room full of man without a sex toy or a dick up his arse. This guy loves you up the arse. No matter the time, date or place, he can fit it in. That's why the circumference of his anus is the same size as the tin I put my biscuits in.
This guy is no one up north, so I just want to start this second verse with one up yours. You see, I've had so many battles and I've got scars on my hand, and I've sliced so many fucking throats you can say I went halal on a man.
It's brilliant. Like, I mean, I was a couple of months ago. I saw Dialect against Scoop.
Yeah,
I was talking to Scoop afterwards, and he said that's the best Dialect that I've ever seen. And I sort of agreed with him, but I always say Dialect came at his best against Double L.
Yeah,
just for me personally. I thought he was brilliant in that battle.
Yeah.
It was just, I mean, I knew nothing about these guys when they came onto the stage, but I had a chat with Oshea before the battle, and he said Dialect was good. He'd heard on the grapevine he was good, and they came on, and it just wasn't. It was one of those ones. I think Dialect went first.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Dialect went first, and you kind of thought, well, you're not going to have two that are so good.
Yeah.
So you kind of heard his first round, and you thought, right, he's got this, and then Double L just came in, and it was just a completely different approach. The thing is, like, because I was always like a jump off head. Like, what I liked was the fact that you don't have all the in jokes and everything else. You want to be able to see it and find it funny, even if it's the first time you've seen them. And I really feel like Double L's style kind of captures the essence of like the jump off battle, but in a written format. You're getting them thick and fast. It's not like he doesn't spend a minute telling these guys before he says it.
No.
Yeah, no, it was that was good. I mean, I think I remember Dialect said in that battle, to hear him talking is like Stephen Hawking giving a speech on people walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one was great. Like at the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah. It's a fantastic battle. I mentioned this with both guys on their episodes, and one of the things I just realised watching it back, you see Psychosis Holocaust in the background. Bit of a shame he didn't get a battle at this card. I wonder why not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few people who don't, but you would have thought he would have, especially in Leeds, like.
You would have, you would have thought so. I don't know why.
No.
I mean, I was at the one where he battled Sensa, like, you know, not too long later.
Yeah.
And seeing that one live was just, that was something else, because I went up there with Sensa for that one, and like it was kind of PH puts it on you, like you know, even if you come in and you walk in with the guy, like you get it put on you, like he's about it. But I don't know why he wasn't. Why he wasn't on this card. No,
I wonder why. And yeah, I mean, we always say on the show, PH versus Sensa, one of the best Don't Flop battles of all time.
Yeah.
You know, unbelievable face-off. The next battle, not necessarily the best battle of all time, JC versus Blunt Frank.
This homo probably has a gay ringtone. I'm guessing it's the sound of himself slurping as it blows and it gives head. Yo, what the heck? Just to check, I'll punch your phone down your throat and I'll wring your neck. Yo, if I'm pissed off, it means I fucking lost my rag and I'm seeing red. If you lose your rag, it just means you're coming to a dirty sock instead and choose to sit there and watch it set.
But if you left the system out the back door, or you get or you're like a crack whore, you better talk to Frank. What else? I heard you fake like a Philippine chick with silicone tits and a really big dick. They say you're like a baby playing with your poo-poo. You're the only one that's filling your shit.
I've got to be honest, both of these guys were sort of new to me going back. The only real note I have is Blunt Frank is a massive Lunar clone. Like, he's such a rip-off of Lunar style, and all the comments say the same thing. And it's like, I guess at this era of Don't Flop, sort of mid-2012, there were just going to be hundreds of Lunar replicas, right?
Well, I couldn't remember this battle at all.
Yeah.
And like my best friend in the battling scenes, MA, I went to the test 10 with him. So I rang him the other day. I said I was doing this show, and I said, "What do you remember about this battle?" And he said he was a Lunar clone as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we've really got to say here. Just lots of sort of long sexual stuff that has a bit of wordplay, but you know, doesn't really go anywhere. And I mean, you know, it's one of those battles that, like, you know, people in the future aren't necessarily going to remember Kid Verbal. You know what I mean? In 10 years, and it's kind of like JC. I mean, shout out Kid Verbal, but Hennessy as well. There are these battlers that are just going to fall by the wayside, and I think JC and Blunt Frank are two examples.
Yeah, product of his environment.
Briggzy versus Soul, which we teased before.
Any day they could walk in, find you bloated up with a swollen tongue. If you get old enough to know your son, I'm showing up on your 30th birthday party. You at the fucking shows with him and slump you at the carousel with a motherfucking photon gun like Logan's Run. And they always turn to amputation. They don't know what cures. Fake arms. You'll need prosthetic limbs for both of yours. Trade bars. That's what you showed up for. Craig Charles, you'll need to send this red dwarf back to Robot Wars.
That is one proper shit name. It sounds like a fat middle-aged IT consultant who spends too much time painting figures in his mum's loft. Surrounded by 100 cars made from Matchbox and likes to scream when he types because it just looks a bit cooler in caps lock.
Which I want to urge everyone to go back and watch, actually. This is a really fun battle. And, like, I've always been the biggest Soul stan ever. And I was always under the impression that, like, oh, Soul, he lacked performance, blah, blah, blah. I think it's more projection that he lacks. I think his actual performance here is good.
Yeah, it was... I don't know what it was. I know that at the time I wasn't a big Soul fan, and I am obviously now. Yeah. It was... Yeah, there was just something... It was like... I sort of felt like someone had to like go on there and earn the right to be listened to. It was like it's like ridiculous me saying that, but yeah, it's kind of, if someone goes on there and demands your attention, then you listen. Whereas like he has gone on to demand everyone's attention, even when you go back and listen to his old battles. So I now watch battles that at the time I know I didn't rate, and I now rate them. And I guess that it probably shows that I didn't give him the time that he deserved, but. Yeah, it was. There must have been a reason for it.
Yeah. And he doesn't get too much reaction in the first. Like you say, there's lots of in-jokes. So he's talking about how Briggzy was ill last year and almost died. Only thing shorter than your life expectancy is yourself, sort of thing. But everyone's a bit like, you know, people don't really know these people. We get like a Robot Wars scheme in the first, and then we get like a Lord of the Rings scheme from Soul in the second. He's very vintage Soul here, you know.
He hadn't got quite through the wire yet.
No, he hadn't actually. No, he was... I think he's on season 1. The myth-real is what he says and stuff like that. I mean, Briggzy has funny stuff. He, talks about, imagine Soul in a club trying to pick someone up, and then like and Micky introducing him to deliver his round to the girl, and like it's. I agree with what you're saying. I think if the battle went down now, Soul would win, but it's a good clash.
Yeah. I mean, I've always like found that Briggzy comes across well. Like he's a funny guy. Like he doesn't go on there and absolutely smash people, but he knows what he's doing. Yeah, and he is a funny guy, look, and that comes across.
I've been first hand to Briggzy, like all the respect for Briggzy. It was funny to think watching this actually, like 6 years later, pretty much we would battle. Like ours was January 2018, this is February 2012, but it was who knows what you have in store. But yeah, this is a good clash. And we get into the next clash, which is, again, is a sort of, makes sense to say, the fourth battle, a sort of funny battle. Two guys have been around a while. What did you make of Els versus Mixy?
Before this battle even started, you was at a handicap because you're from Peterborough. A habitat where 99% of the guys have got a pamphlet swag. And you don't spit freeze, you spit and freeze. For you, even using words is a struggle. You spit that same old generic shit in the same old tone. You're the same old pathetic gimp with the same old... Well, I wouldn't call it a flow. You're a bad copy like Ark had a clone. You're only here because of equal rights. We've got to let the retard have a go.
Els was great. Like, I came up with like watching Els, and he's just a funny character. He's just the kind of one that you don't know what he's going to say next, and it's almost like he has those pauses and like that blank expression where I don't think he knows quite. And then he just drops it, and the room goes nuts. And I know that I've spoken to lots of people that have kind of got into battling since him, and have heard that he's good. They've gone back, and it doesn't translate the same. Sure. But I think everyone that was about at the time just knows that Els was great. Yeah, and Mixy was always like, he's good, but he wasn't my kind of guy. Sure.
And I just want to focus for a moment, Sean, on the opening graphics to the Test 10 with all the sponsors. Yeah. I mean, you can't help but feel nostalgic when you see it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it like pushed on slightly from like the very like initial ones that they had. Yeah. It's but yeah, it definitely pushed on like years after that. Yeah. You see sort of it makes sense where you see 4th birthday go and 5th birthday and what they do with the graphics. They were putting a lot forward here, and it just makes you want to watch all the battles, because all the battles look great, like that they're showing. Well, the thing was, like, I remember when in those real early days of Don't Flop, and I mean, I don't really go and like add anyone on like Facebook and that these days, but at the beginning, like sort of around 08, 09, it was like the Pokemon thing.
Yeah.
And it was like I'd add them. It wasn't even like to sort of chat. It was just like you'd add them just so that, because there was the in jokes that were going on, and a lot of it would get played out on there, and like you would see like and different people would actually put out like, you know, we're going to be putting out a flyer next month. Does anyone have any suggestions for like the name of the event?
Right.
And like I remember like Blood in the Water just like getting suggested, and certain different ones, and then it was like who can do a flyer, and it was like that, like until they got their established team, it was just they put it out there, and if someone could put something together for free, they'd put it out.
God, glory days, isn't it? That DIY culture, it's amazing. And like you can still find loads of those old statuses if you look back, like, because often I'm trying to find people on Facebook to have them on the show, and you just stumble across stuff from literally, like you say, 7 years ago, and it's just really cute to see. And like, you know, it's
the thing is, like, I see that like puts up quite a lot like old statuses from like years ago, and I'll scroll down, and then you've normally got me like commenting some stupid, like, because the thing is, like, I'm quite good friends with him now, but like at the time it was like he says to me now, you were like just a wanker that used to basically just troll like from early days, and I see him now and it's like, yeah, it's normally got me popping up this silly comment.
All in all, you know, this is a really sort of a really funny battle. I think it depends what your sort of preference for the style is. I think they clash well. Els goes a lot on sort of fucking Mixy's girl, and then you sort of see Mark Grist behind Mixy not looking impressed as the stuff gets delivered. Els probably the first person, not the last, to say that Mixy reminds him of Michael McIntyre, which you know, he gets a lot. Els sort of stumbles a little bit towards the end, and Mixy takes the victory on consistency, which is a sort of deadly word. When all the judges say consistency, it's what you say, we don't really know what to say. It's like always a bit more consistent overall. But you know, it's a good clash. And any memories of sort of the time frames? Obviously, you were there. I'm guessing things were happening at quite a sluggish pace because, you know, so many battles, so many people.
Yeah, it was. It was. I don't remember it, but it wasn't one of the real awful like classic ones.
Yeah.
That you really like remember, but I mean, this was one of the first events that I blagged it onto the, and it was like, so I was kind of enjoying that. I guess maybe it was time was going a bit faster.
Yeah.
And it was like I'd been to enough that I'd kind of got on there, and I was just chilling with different people, and it was just, so I don't remember it, but maybe like for the people that were kind of standing there watching, like, you know, I've been there, and it's
And was it? I think someone said this about this event on the show. Maybe was it snowing outside? Was there a bit of a storm?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was snowing. Yeah, there was a blizzard outside.
Yeah, and Lego does the punch, which we'll get to. But I think Pamphlet said like there were lines of people outside. This mother and daughter came to see him or something. They were like huge fans of him, and like, you know, it was. I mean, was pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, the way I remember going to the event, and it was I went up on the train. I went up with MA. We went and checked into the hotel, and it was like, I think it was like 12 o'clock or something like that. It said on the flyer to get there, and we were like, yeah, it's going to be running at o'clock. Like we'll get there at whatever time. We'd never been to the venue at the time, and we're just walking down the street, and we're like, all right, it's there, and as you saw the building from the distance, the angle we were coming, you saw no people. But as you turned round the right angle, there was just this queue, and we were just, it was just like, wow, like, because, you know, we'd gone to all these like events together up until that stage, and it was like that you saw these, you generally, like, you'd have times where you'd go to these venues and there'd be nothing there. You didn't even know if you were in the race. Like the building didn't even know if it looked open, but you just hear that bass booming and like a bit of weed smell around the corner, and you kind of think, sure. I'm probably in the right place. Yeah. That's what the first North versus South event was like for me. It was right outside New Street Station. Well, no, it's just around the back of New Street Station. Right. Yeah, it was. You know, it was like about 100 yards away from the entrance to the station. And I just said, it's not here. And then you just kind of like, you got the smell, and then like Kruger was at the door and said like, yeah, come in.
Yeah.
And it was weird. And then you've got this situation where I just remember walking along the queue, like you say, it was snowing, and there was just people hanging off of Lunacy, just like he was David Beckham.
Yeah.
You know, it was really surreal.
So, talking of Lunar, actually, he's the person who's the only sort of host other than and he introduces Calcium Kid versus Eddie P.
His mum's pussy jokes all out. This motherfucker was going all out, holding star jump positions in his mum's womb so he wouldn't fall out. But you did fall out onto a cold council floor covered in crap bags and snapbags with Spudnicking. The only reason that you managed to survive the fall is you landed on knickers your mum had just wore to suck dick in.
I spend my time teaching C&I dogs to kill. I'll fuck your brother's wife on the pill, stick a knife in a grill and punch a pet duck right in the bill. Right, you need to shut your fucking pie hole, Cotton Eye Joe. No. You spend your gyros on tickets to Dido's live shows.
What are your memories of this one?
Yeah, I think that was the one that Lunar actually set that one up.
Mm.
I think that there was something to do with that one. There was a reason why he was hosting it. It was his one that he'd picked. That was a really funny battle. Yeah.
Yeah. I know he's a big Calcium Kid fan, I think, altogether.
Yeah, it was because the thing was, it was like Eddie P came in and he was kind of funny and crazy, and then like Calcium Kid just did it better. Like, I mean, but Eddie P, that's me sort of like judging it, but the way that the crowd, I remember at the time, were like you say, they were 14 plus. They were going nuts for him. Like that battle. That was. I remember saying at the time, like about these kids, like they're going to be stealing these jokes and taking them to school. Like they were like generic enough that I think like Calcium Kid said something about I could beat you at like I Spy with my eyes closed or.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was kind of silly stuff, but it was really funny. But I mean, I think Calcium definitely, he probably won it 3-0.
Yeah, I think Eddie P, great battler, but a kind of classic example of someone who thrives a bit more in that 2-on-2 give and take environment.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like he kind of lacks enough to sort of bring. When he's in a 2-on-2, he doesn't need to bring so much.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I think Calcium Kid is a bit more consummate there, and like you say, playing into the hand of the audience. We had Uno versus Micky.
But I'll fuck around and leave you under the blood and shirtless. You punch to the gut and murk him. You dumb as what as a person? I'm really about to hurt him. This nigga scratching the surface, the gap back and be jerking cause your style is like your father when he raped you as a child. Get it? It's fucking worthless.
I'm the best at rapping. You can't test less. Let's get it cracking. Lee, Lunacy is next. Make some noise. Hold it down. I just want to start my first round with definite reaction.
I mean, Micky by this point was pretty much as big as right, as a Don't Flop figure.
Yeah, he was getting his face about at the time. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I remember about this one was it was a bit of a crazy battle, but like Uno really was he was really getting like the what else and everything. Started.
Yeah, that was huge at this event. Yeah.
He really drummed the crowd up, and I think that Micky learnt from this, and when he battled Ark, later on, I think he probably he felt that kind of the way that Uno got the crowd in the palm of his hand, and he did that to Ark. Like that's my favourite Micky performance. Like when he just gets the crowd all singing with him and
the Rice Krispie Squares line and
and it's like I think he probably took a lesson off of Uno here, because if you're judging content and consistency or these things that the judges like the criteria that they go by. But if you just go by when you're in the room and the crowd are all going nuts for one person and then they're not doing it so much for the other person, they're going to win.
It's a good clash. It's a nice personality thing. But yeah, I agree. I think Micky took a lot from this battle, learnt a lot. And, we see when he actually teams up with Uno against Bowski and Calcium Kid at 4th birthday. And, you know, they've had, you know, various collabs. Obviously, Uno's came over as the King of the Ronalds in the future. But my God, King of the Ronalds, no one even knew what the hell that was back then. You know, this was Don't Flop's day, and rightly so. And we get into the big battles of the first day. I mean, you know, there was so many big battles. And a huge clash for both of these guys. This was his first battle after his viralness. Blizzard versus Lego.
Imagine this young'un necking a glass of San Miguel in a shandy can. He'd definitely crap his pants. And every battle fan, as well as the cameraman, can tell you don't have a chance in hell with them spacker hands. I'm well aware of the facts that Blizzard is young, but grow the fuck up and stop thinking your finger's a gun.
Don't ever think you're real. The name Lego is a patent, so you will never get a deal. Guerrilla tactics is the only way you'll ever sell in a store, because you use profanity to censor yourself from the law. Yeah, you won the 2-on-2s, props, but I don't believe that you did. Adam Tenshu did, sure, but I just kind of feel you were shit. You should change your name to Eve, because 1, you're seen as a myth, and 2, without Adam you wouldn't even exist, and 3, you're a bitch.
Yeah, this was a great battle. Yeah, Lego in particular. I mean, I was always a huge Lego fan.
Oh, yeah.
It was just from when you saw him in the early days, like rapping in the parks and all that. It was just he was always a real funny one. And then obviously, like you say, he's gone into this and he was battling Blizzard, and Blizzard had the buzz. And you wondered if Lego could step up, put him in front of the crowd, and he did. Like, he really, really did.
Yeah, he was an old hand at this, really. I think Lego's experience worn out. But it was the inventiveness of Blizzard, wasn't it? It was kind of, he came well, Lego getting stepped on, you know, these sort of bars. What did you think of him beating his chest in the 3rd? We hadn't really seen anything like that in Don't Flop.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you remember back to it. Like, so if you mention that battle, I think of some of the big Lego lines, and then I remember Blizzard like tapping his chest. It definitely works. It was definitely impressive, you know, for someone who doesn't do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But but the standout thing for that battle for me was when Lego started going in on Blizzard for the trigger finger.
Yeah.
And like he's saying about he carries his hand in a holster.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and what does he say? Something about his weapon to be a Smith and Wesson in the mirror doing a Will Smith impression. Yeah. It was and then he said that thing about, this is my mate Harry. He's a bloke that you never seen, but he runs the after party and he knows that he's 17. It was just people just went nuts for that. It was it was brilliant. But I think that was one where Lego took the first 2 clear, and then Blizzard brought his absolute best 3rd, and it was against the round that I think Lego had a choke in his 3rd,
slightly,
and it was but it was a clear cut. Blizzard took the last one. Maybe if that had been in the middle somewhere, it would have looked like a 2-1 that had gone 1-1. But in the first, it was 2-1, but I think it was a clear one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's funny how these things judges can fall. But again, a really cool matchup as well. It's like, giving Blizzard a big name. The next matchup, because obviously we had Blizzard and Grist, so everyone's thinking, who are they going to battle next? Doesn't really make sense that Grist went with Zain. If you listen to the Zain episode, this was agreed far in the past, actually, before the Blizzard battle actually blew up. And Zain just sort of exploited that. And, Zain was very clever with this.
He kidnaps kids, take them home, and fucks them in the ass depending on age. Listen. You should realise this won't be any different.
Let's go!
And I'll teach the test, but we know it's a wind-up. This creature has breasts like Meatloaf in Fight Club.
This is one of the most disliked Don't Flop battles of all time. It's got over 5,400 dislikes. This is the main event. In the intro saying to support independent brands unless they sell paedophilic materials. He says that he's heard in his ear that the Grist Blizzard battle is currently at 700k, which he'd been out for like 2 months, I think, at this point, or something like that, just under that.
Yeah.
So, that's crazy by today's standards, let alone 2012. I mean, this is, what can you say about Grist versus Zain, Sean?
Yeah, that was. I've never known. Well, I'm not sure. I've never known a battle that has been so differently. The way it was received in the room compared to the way it's been received online is so different. Because I did believe me, everyone that was there in the room at the time was going with Zain. Like, and you watch it back now, and it's so ridiculous what he's saying.
Oh yeah.
But everyone was going with it. It was amazing. And like I remember as Philly Swain was stood next to Zain, and I can only imagine he'd never seen him before. didn't know what was coming.
Right.
And it was like he was next to him and he was in tears, and everyone was in tears. I just remember a classic moment where Zain said something like, "Oh, I'm not racist to white chick. I'm into black chicks. He's into black guys," or something like that.
Yeah.
And he turns around and awkwardly apologizes to Philly Swain. He's next to him, and no, it was. I just remember everyone coming out afterwards, and I remember just talking with the judges, and I'm like, "Who you got?" And they're like, "I'm giving it to Zain." Like, it was weird, and then it went online, and obviously Grist smashed it in the Blizzard battle, and he obviously got a lot of people that were into it, you know, they weren't the same people that were going to be in that to the test chamber. Maybe in years to come they would have done, but they weren't there yet, and they didn't. they were more interested in seeing Zain on the day.
Definitely, and I've said this before on the show, I love the idea of all these spoken word kids watching Grist Blizzard, and they can't wait for Grist's next battle, and then just being horrified at what they see, you know, because all the comments are like that as well, you know, all the comments just don't understand how Zain won this battle, and, you know, Zain then kills it, you know, you're a paedophile, you weren't born yesterday, but the babies you rape are, you know,
Yeah, and I remember him pulling out that laptop.
Yes, the laptop controversy.
And I just remember Grist. I can't even remember if you see it on the camera, but I just remember Grist's face.
Oh yeah, you can see it. Yeah, he looks very worried. Yeah,
he was like, "What are you doing?" And I remember him just pulling it out, and it was like he hadn't even maximised the image. It was like a real small image of like some Facebook picture that he pulled out. And he can't. I guess Grist was let off the hook.
Yeah, it was a stag do. Grist and his, I presume, mate was dressed as like a sort of German milkmaid. And I remember Zain was saying that in Malaysia this was like heresy, but obviously in the UK no one gives a fuck. That's just a stag do. So yeah, it wasn't that. But yeah, the judges. You mentioned the judges. So MA felt Grist was more eloquent, but you know, gave it to Zain. Wiz gave it to Zain. Uno Lavoz says it will be the best battle of the night. You know, Lunar talks of it being fucked up that the laptop was pulled out, but nonetheless gives it to Zain. Double L goes with Grist actually, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Zain takes it, and it's one of the. It's not even a shock upset. It's just butthurt commenters.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've ever actually looked through these comments, but. Yeah. I know I've heard you say it on the show before that it's, you know, it's highly disliked, and I can, it's funny. It's funny to me, but yeah, it was brilliant on the day. It was like, you know, like there's brilliant, as in it was a brilliant experience.
Yeah,
like, you know, if you go on there and someone doesn't have to go on there and be absolutely great at what they're doing, but if it's just hilarious and everyone's rocking with it, then you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Definitely, and I can't believe you were here for all these battles as well. There were so many classics, and we get to the final battle of day one. This is a huge battle. I mean, this was just when I was getting into Don't Flop around this era. I remember me and my friend went to Amsterdam in 2012, and we got home on the bus, and my friend texted me being like, the new Lunar battle's out, and I was so excited to go home and watch it.
When you break into elementary school, sneak into the class and hide is the only time you motherfuckers ever bang a 9. Your mum looks like Uno Lavoz. Yo, in order for you two fucking pussies to beat us, you gonna need infinite skill.
Trained soldiers on a mission to kill.
Lifting pistols at will, sitting in position with steel.
From the Prime Minister's bill.
But controlled by that limitless pill. I mean, I swear to God, we wilder. Nobody did this fouler. I'm the Rican Russell Brand, and Swain, well, he 007 if he was played by Idris Elba.
Listen, Mr. Bean.
just out of interest, Sean, at the start of the video, we get an advert for the first release from Don't Flop Records. Do you remember what that was?
No.
It was
no.
It was Jefferson Price, Just Assume I'm Everywhere. What a title.
Yeah, now he's not. Now
yeah, exactly. What ironic.
Yeah.
Apparently, Soul Khan's on the album. You get it from don'tflop.bandcamp.com, which I'm not sure if it exists anymore. I need to check that out. But
yeah, I know. I do remember him having something with Soul Khan at the time. I don't remember it being on Don't Flop Records. So.
Yeah, and so this is Lunacy and Matter versus Philly, Swain, and Zim. This is, I mean, this is a Hollywood battle, isn't it? This is a giant thing to have at the top of the card.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know if I'd seen Lunacy live before this. Actually, I think because I wasn't going to all the events.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but yeah, it was. You just got that feel that the crowd were there for this. Like everything else was like. Everything else they sort of rocked with, but they were there to see Lunacy, and that was it.
No doubt about it. And during the intro, they actually get their names out. Says like they haven't even been able to get their names out. They're facing two of these original grind time guys, and Philly and Zim go first, and it's fine. I personally don't think it's great material. I mean, I watched this morning, and it's just
it wasn't.
No,
it was they like when I was saying that people like tailored their stuff to the crowd.
Yeah,
they didn't at all. Like I remember Fredo did, but Swain and Zim didn't, and it was, and if you had an American guy that was just into hip hop or just into battling, they might look at it in a different way, but if you're in that room, they didn't come with it.
No. And it's cool that Lunar and Matter shout out Puma for the gear. That's the first thing they do, which I guess back then it was so big that, brands were sponsoring.
Yeah, I remember that happening at the time, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And it's almost a victim of their own success where they can't get out of line without people going crazy. So Lunar says, you look like a Spanish guy, looks like he's from Palestine, which, set up, whatever. People going crazy over it.
Yeah. These most of these people that were there to go nuts to a Lunacy line.
You're right,
and they did. So, you can't knock them. But it's a bit ridiculous.
It is a bit ridiculous. There's still some great stuff. If you're an American, it means that embedded in your genes is a hereditary disease that makes you smell of chicken grease and have an elephant's physique. And when Lunar gets that off, you can tell he's buzzing as well because it's hard and the rhythm's beautiful and he's great. Philly, Swain, and Zim, it's like ducks better duck or get their bill hurt. It's like what? So you're threatening him as a duck and you're threatening his nose. I mean, I get it, but it's still not very good at all. And Matter as well. They just sort of mock the Americanism of them and win for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's they sort of go in there again. They're bringing their stuff for the crowd. They've got the crowd on their back. It's an easy win for them, and they were good. I mean, it wasn't. They weren't as good as they were against Eddie B and Frisco, for example. No. But it was good. I mean, this was probably the first time that they performed to that kind of crowd and everything. So it was a big moment for them, and they did it. So it was maybe a buy for them, but they were good. They were good.
Yeah, they were a decent pair, and just sort of maybe in a smaller room it would have been a different thing. And you can tell Lunar's incredibly high. I think he says as well in his second round how high he is, and he's just a bit more spaced out than normal. But nonetheless, really, really fun battle on both sides. But I think Lunacy and Matter, and I think historically as well, it's really interesting because this obviously was Lunar's last battle for like 5 years. 3 or 4 years. I guess he came back in 2015. So about 3 years. So a little one. He hasn't came back at the time of us recording this in March 2018 since the Oshea battle at Checkpoint 2. Now, what was the after party like with Lego's mate? Did everyone just head off together or?
I didn't go to it.
Right.
I didn't go to it, to be honest. No, it was. I remember. I don't know how many people really went to it because I remember going away from there with MA, Tony D, Locksmith, like Ark, Sensa, like all these guys. There was a lot of people that went where we went, and it wasn't to the after party. So I don't know, to be honest.
No, fair enough. No.
And
obviously you were there for both days. Do you see a lot of people coming back for the second day?
Yeah. Most most people were there for the 2 days. Yeah, I remember Sensa turned up right at the end of day one. Like he turned up, but yeah, it was most people that I was kind of knocking around with on day one were there for the weekend.
And yeah, it's just as full as well. It's not like there's a depletion second day or anything.
Yeah, I think it was 450 tickets.
Wow.
And they sold that out on both days. So it was a really successful event.
Yeah. And we get to day 2. We kick off with some big names, you know, and some big money at play because Jefferson Price had paid 23 quid to get Deffinition here. He paid his fee. This is Deffinition versus Jefferson Price.
But how much do you think it costs to get a Don't Flop legend to get at me for 3 rounds? The very top tier Arsenal price tag of £23. See, unlike everybody in your immediate circle, I actually like you, Paul. I love those 10 voicemails a day and I love those midnight calls.
You're a fucking choke artist and every bar I spit is perfect. Plus Price is known as Katie Price in Scarborough City Circuit. Because Price and Katie Price are black retarded kids they work with. But I'm not dissing retard. Shout out Harvey and Micky Worthless.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite ones. Yeah, that was the first battle I remember. Yeah, it was. I remember just sort of really watching. Like I'm good friends with Deff as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good guy, and I remember just in the build up to this, just watching all of the back and forwards, and it was like it meant so much to Jeff. Like it really, really did.
Yeah.
And Deff just was batting it off, and just winding him up, and just kept on sort of saying like. You could tell that if he lost, like Deff wouldn't have cared. It was just a case of that he was really, really pushing his buttons, and it got to the day, and like I remember sort of just saying like to Deff, like, oh, you know, what do you think? And he wasn't bothered, and it was like Jeff really was bothered. I always remember like Soul was like, because I know like he went on to be like real good friends with Deff, and I guess he was probably at the time as well. But I remember at the time he was very much one of Jeff's boys, and he was being very vocal. Not vocal, but he was. It was clear that he was supporting Jeff on that day, and it was just the way that it. I don't know. It probably is relatively similar to you and Briggzy, to be fair.
Right.
It was like, you know, where you've just got one guy who's kind of really, really wants it so much.
Yeah.
And then like the other one kind of just takes the chilled approach. And I think it's if you're lucky enough to be in the position where you can play the chilled approach, it's an easier way to. It's an easier stance to come from. And yeah, it was a good battle though, but. Jeff kind of fell apart towards the end, didn't he?
Unfortunately, yeah. And then he has this weird reference to like electricity and Egyptian time. I don't really know what he's talking about there. Says it's like a Twitter grudge match, and you know, Jeff saying you're going to need Bloodstro and Cripstro, which is quite nice. Jesus on Twitter, only idiots would follow you. But Deff, you know, he just has these lines that just wrap you up, really. And, you know, the whole... even just him, like, being in Leeds and freaking out. They got electricity in the streets.
Yeah. One of the things I really remember was, like, Deff going in on Micky. Like,
yeah.
And it was like... He said something about, just because, like, you can't do it, you don't need to interrupt my battle or something. And, it was... The thing was... because I watched this one the other day as well, and one of the things that I kind of picked out was that like Deff brought that line to Jeff about the fact that he met his girl in drama school.
Yeah, Scarborough.
And it was like, and it was like, and Jeff's like, well, so what? Like, and it is so what? It's like, why has he said it? But the key thing is Micky's told him, like, so it was like almost like early alarm bells like ringing.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just something that I spotted. But yeah, I mean, Jeff had the Illmatic scheme, which
he goes through the whole album, and I didn't realise Skirmish was there. I just had Skirmish on the show, and weirdly we spoke about Illmatic on the episode, so it was just cool to see him freaking out. And then he does a Yorkshire State of Mind as well. There's a big Yorkshire chant at the end of the second.
I mean, the Yorkshire crowds have always been, you know, they're proud of their area, I guess. Yeah, it's always those Leeds crowds are always very, very good.
Yeah, they are, and this was a cool choice for an opening battle, especially considering Deff, huge name by this point.
Yeah, Deff, he was like not everyone's cup of tea. Like through the years, there was a lot of people that were involved in the scene that kind of didn't like him. I don't know, like probably, but it was something that I always sensed. It was like people sort of he rubbed people up the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I thought he always turned up and brought it, and he's got some real classics. I always love him against DK.
Oh God, yeah.
As in the girl, and it was it was absolutely brilliant. But I remember I watched it just like a few weeks ago, and I sent him a message, said, "Oh, this is your best stuff," and he's like, "It's just a shame I can't really show it to anyone anymore."
yeah.
It was but yeah, Def got that one, I think.
Definitely, and I'm not just saying that because me and Def have our own podcast together as well. If you're interested in Watchmen, check it out. We're getting back to battles right now. Flex Digits versus Ahab.
So just write your will and die and fuck you and your pension plan. This is living proof that humans do actually age in Neverland. Plus get a tan, but don't hit the sun fully, looking like your Dutch mummy was fuck buddies with Doug Funny.
Try to sound a little less evil. You depress people! You've been angry since the day your mom refused to breastfeed you!
Now, this is a battle that, for whatever reason, I hadn't seen this before we were doing this episode, and I was really impressed by both of these guys. I thought Ahab was great in this. I mean, a little bit on the nose with you're gay, but some funny ways of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this at the time, and I knew nothing of Ahab at the time, and I was quite a Flex fan. He was, the thing was, even he was skillful, but like the thing was he was good when you go and watch him live because he brought that intensity. The kind of similar to PH in that way, and it's like, when I went and watched Flex against Sensa, and that one in that tiny room, just when it was really, really intense, and that was his style.
Yeah.
You kind of knew that any battle that he was going to get into was going to have that sort of element to it, I guess. But it was I just remember the guy lifting his arm up in this battle though.
Yes.
And it was strange, like it was because Flex, that was it. I knew nothing of it, but I remember speaking to Flex before, and I was saying, what is it about this Ahab? And he was just like, oh, he's an amputee. And it was like, oh, right. And I remember everyone just being like, how are you gonna approach that? We're all sort of wondering it. And then he just started it with that, Dutch amputee, like multi to start with, and he just put it like right on his nose right from the start. And Ahab just like lifts his arm up. It was it wasn't the kind of thing that we were used to seeing at the time, but it sticks in your mind.
Yeah, it definitely does. His name's Gus van der Steen, rhymes with Dutch amputee, and
That's
he's
it.
like Jackie Chan has it. You have a black belt only in martial arts, which really caught me off guard watching it. Actually, it really made me laugh. Like it was really funny. And Flex has loads of great stuff here visually. Looks like Bishop Brigante got picked for a prom date. And like Dutch Mummy was fuck buddies with Doug Funny, and this is kind of 2012 multi-stacking. Calls him Carl Pilkington, which in a room like this gets a big reaction. Not because you're simple and bold, I just made you look like an idiot abroad. And as we say, Ahab has a lot of sort of gay stuff, and he is an amputee, and he does say someone put their hand in the air if they think Flex Digit is hard or a fan, and one person does, but then he does, and obviously the room just loves that.
But Flex had one of the classic moments of the event as well when he fly punched someone off of the stage.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ever got.
No, I've never seen. That was at this event.
Yeah, that was at this event. Yeah.
And what happened there? Why did he do that?
It was just someone mouthing off in the crowd, and it was Flex just wasn't the kind of guy that took that kind of thing. And I think he basically sort of gave him a warning, and then the guy mouthed again, and he just flew into the crowd, and we didn't hear from the guy anymore. So He did what he came to do.
Wow. But yeah, check this out, people. If you're looking for a battle to watch, and you just listen to this, watch Flex Digits versus Ahab. I had a really good time watching this, and Ahab sort of picks on his black eye as well. I bet the other guy, flex their digits more. He does a little limerick about rectal bleeding, Ahab, at the end of his second as well. No, his third, sorry. And it's not bad. Flex talking about going to Amsterdam and taking a shit on every painting in the Van Gogh Museum, and it's of this ilk. But it's fun for what it is. We now get to someone who I imagine had a little bit of buzz back in the day, but no one remembers. Joe Snow battling Mr. 13.
Get your dad to fuck, you're not gonna force your mum to watch. Then one shot will tell the pet I'll feed a Zain. Your life will never be the same when I bring beef to your house like a pizza chain. Set your nan on fire, put her out when only her feet remain. Slice your dad up till blood's pouring from his bleeding veins.
You shove your dick right up your missus' ass and wipe it on her tongue. So that when you kiss her, you can't taste the next man's cum.
Yeah, I don't really remember this one, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Mr. 13 well, but I don't really remember Joe Snow at all.
No. He's got quite an odd voice, very low voice. He's got a very Lunar swag, a la Blunt Frank, and I think Furt's here. I mean, I didn't realise Furt's went back quite this far. This is actually his second battle. And this is early 2012, so it's been going a fair while. I need to get Furt's on the show. There's quite a few people I've gone through here mentally. I've been like, I need to get him, need to get Ahab actually. Maybe don't need to get Blunt Frank. Shout out Blunt Frank though. But, it's fine. And I think Mr. 13 plays off him well, clowns on his voice, and he thought Virgin Airlines was for first time flyers, and all this sort of stuff we've heard before. Mr. 13 wins. And there's kind of a funny bit at the end with the judging where Uno's judging and Deffinition's like whispering what he's meant to say to him and stuff like that.
I remember that actually, I remember that. I don't remember the battle, but I do remember that happening.
Yeah, and Soul says as well in the judging, he gives all 3 rounds to Mr. 13, even though he's a dickhead on Facebook. So I don't know what I was referencing in particular, but Furtz gets his first win. We don't need to dwell too much on this battle, to be honest with you. Well, it wasn't a bad battle, but nothing too stand out. The next one, however, another person that just people don't really remember, who was a pretty, sick battler in his day, Jack Flash versus the man Scizzahz.
Flash Frame, Flash Flood, Flashbang Wallop, Flash Gordon. I could go on, but the fact is your name ain't that important. So fuck Jack Flash. He's a substandard rhymer. Change your name to Angry Driver because you slap Dash. Look,
I just heard, yeah, it's the dude C's. and I heard you've been working on tracks with Wizard.
Yeah, that was. Both of these guys were good. I mean, I was like a real fan of Scizzahz when he. He was one of the ones right from the early days. He was good. He was at like the first events that I was like going to, and he was good. Yeah, Jack Flash. Yeah, he was. Was he from Norwich?
Potentially, I'm not quite sure.
I think. I think so. I can't remember, but yeah, I do remember him being good as well. I don't. Was this the battle where he does the real like Scizzahz impression?
Yes, he does. He nails it.
And he's really killing it. Yeah. I haven't watched it for a while, but I remember it from the time.
Yeah, the impression is one of the GOAT UK battle rap impressions.
It's your boy Sizz.
Yeah. He gets the timbre, unbelievable. And Wiz is the guest host, actually. There are more than one guest host. Yeah, he's in the crew with Sizz, he says, but he has an album out with Jack Flash, so the priorities are somewhat split here. But yeah, the thing most people remember about this is Jack's impression, which is really good, and the battle gets edged to Jack, and Jefferson says it was Jefferson Price in the judging says it's arguably the closest battle of all time, and he's kind of right, because it's like they are so evenly matched, and all 6 rounds are really funny, and Jack goes a little bit too much like about your girl is like Joe Brand with Peter Beardsley's face, and kids
like Scizzahz was always great, but I always thought he always used to go for like one more multi than he should have done.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't rap. I've never tried, so I'm probably not qualified to say that. But that's just always the way that it kind of felt like. I'd imagine if he carried on battling, he probably wouldn't be doing that anymore. It always was like he'd do it and it was really good, and then it had like one more multi that was like wasn't quite so on point.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And a battle that, you know, if you sort of put people gun to the head, name every single To The Test 10 battle, most people probably wouldn't mention this one. It's a little forgettable. It's not the most obvious matchup. Disciple versus Dose.
Now what's up is the name of his crew's #1 single and posse cut. Does he drop a bar on it? Does he fuck? In fact, out of all your members of your crew, 6 of them, you're the only one who doesn't spit any verses on it. You just stand around in the background looking like a nervous hobbit.
So disciple means a follower. Speaking of followers, watch this last puppy get stomped to the curb. I'm at a rage, it's been days and haven't caught me some herbs. So if I was at a loss for my words when I was talking to her, it was probably Fur being offered this jerk. I mean, I wanted some work. Not just to fly out and take the win from this nameless dick. Y'all supposed to put me to the test, right? Well, face it, bitch, I'm acing this basic quiz. He is on that faggot shit. You've had questionable friendships with all the men in your life. I bet your sexual preference is Jefferson Price.
I remember that, again, I've probably not watched it back. I think I definitely remember watching it on the day, and Dose had quite a bad choke.
He did at the end of it. Well, no, he chokes his entire third. He doesn't get a bar out.
Yeah, it was. I remember it being a really bad one. And Disciple was just he was like he used to set the benchmark. Like he would never go there and like set the world alight. But if you were really on top of your game, like you'd probably beat him. But if you in any way slipped, he was like good and consistent enough that you'd always lose. And he was just the kind of one that you could rely on that was going to bring a good performance. But I remember with Dose, like I'd seen some of his battles before, and I remember looking forward to it, and I remember him choking, and it was and I was very close to him at the time, and you could just see that it was really affecting him. You know, I've travelled all this way and I can't remember this, and it was agonising. Yeah. It's probably why I haven't gone back and watched it. Or maybe I have, but not in recent years.
Yeah. Disciple's not bad. I mean, obviously everyone harks back to the sort of the shotty battle. He's rocking a T-shirt that just simply says "The North," which I quite like, and he's quite handy as well. He puts a lot of hands on Dose and pushes him about and touches his fake. You know, imagine he has a fake mustache, touches his top lip and stuff like that. And I mean, Dose, to be honest with you, he was going to lose anyway. His bars are very generic. Birth control, predictable flow, call the shots like Joe Rogan, and you know, all this sort of stuff. And Disciple, again, we've mentioned this quite a lot, like playing to the crowd. He says, I'll give 50p to every person in the crowd who got one reference he dropped in his round. And you know, everyone laughs there because it's true. And yeah, Diz, as in Disciple, wins well, I think. He does like a lot of South Park references about what he knows about Canada. Obviously, Dose is from Canada. And Dose trips up at the start of his first. Uno haunting him. Uno saying, "What else?" as he's choking, which I thought was quite cruel. It's a painful choke. Disciple wins. And Disciple brazenly, but I don't really blame him, he turns to the camera and is like, "What did you expect?"
That was what he was like at the time. You know, he was good. Like he was, but I think he was one that probably had the hump with the fact that he was good, but he never kind of blew. Like so from that, he never really got the opportunities that he probably believed that he. There's a few people like that across the years that were good technically, but then lesser people but with more popularity, like, you know, someone like Micky, for example. Like is just he's got great personality, and some people, you know, for me, I think it's fine. Like I think, like I say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it's like it's fine if you come a different way, but other people are like, no, I'm better than him, I should get the opportunities. And I think Disciple probably fell under that bracket.
Yeah, definitely. And again, you know, there's been lots of surprises doing these episodes, lots of battles that I'd just never seen. I'd never seen Bowski versus Siyo.
You have the family bucket ruckus with that deep fried style. You could probably eat like an obese child. And I wasn't being descriptive of a fat factual child. I meant this cunt would eat that actual child. You're a fat greedy cunt. The 7 belly's not enough. You have more bellies than your bellies has guts.
Last Christmas, Siyo was at home chilling with the fam. He can't afford turkey, so he was chewing some spam. All of a sudden, his mom got the laptop to see what Don't Flop was all about. All of a sudden, Lavoz jumped out. Hey, yo!
I was really impressed by Siyo. I think he's great in this battle.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times. Yeah, he's good. Like Bowski, as I say, is like hit and miss with his like the nature of what he is. Like, yes. I think he builds momentum, and if he's riding that momentum on the day, he can really be good. And then sometimes he struggles to find it. Like I remember being at one of the early Manchester events, and they had some freestyle competition that probably never made a flyer, or probably wasn't even on film. Yeah. But it was some freestyle competition at a Don't Flop event, and that was the first time I saw Bowski, and he was great. Like he was really, really good, like in a freestyle, and he's one. I always check his battles, Bowski.
Yeah, I think the Oshea battle in particular, where he's doing like spins and he's singing and just that that battering ram of personality that he has.
Really good, yeah.
It's undeniable. And Siyo as well, who need to watch more of. I know he recently battled Real Deal on Rap Is Full. Which is pretty cool. And Bowski does okay in his first, but Siyo just has lots of quite original "you're so fat." When you're on the back, it looks like you're in a puddle, and he gets lots of laughs here, and like him stopping his rounds and running out of breath. And then he does a second round where it's kind of like you can tell. Sorry, not sorry. Bowski does a second round of impressions, so you can tell that he doesn't have a second round really. He does an impression. He does a Lunar impression. It's a bit stock.
It was just something it's not. I was going to say something else. Yeah.
And we get some potato famine stuff from Bowski in the third as well. And he says at the end, Siyo is shit at rapping, and then Siyo's like, ooh, like he's clearly not interested. He flips it with a deadly flip. What the fuck do you know about famine? He asks, which is hard.
That's nice.
Yeah. Frisco didn't just body you, but climbed inside you, which is nice. And make this place rock like a club in Omar, which is sort of like a historical reference there, which was quite niche that I don't think a lot of people got, but still was nice to see in there. And Siyo won this quite convincingly. It's probably a body of To The Test 10, I'd say.
Yeah, I like a lot of the like the Irish guys and that. They've got a lot of personality.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, sometimes with the accent and the fact that they're not always over here, they don't get the same opportunities to a degree. But they've always got it's just a different flavour over there.
No, you're right. And when he first started spitting, it was a little bit hard to decipher, but it becomes clearer as he goes on. And I know Irish people will be listening and rolling their eyes and stuff, but sometimes it can be difficult. It's how Canadians felt when they saw Dialect versus Chiller, and didn't know what the hell he was saying. It's the same sort of idea. So going into the bigger battles of the day, and we've got some huge contests upcoming. Matter versus Fredo.
See the flow, intricately known, infamous foe, ripping it foes, getting their whole ligaments stretched like old licorice. Your whole image is so internet. Real MC punches, hitting the heavy bag and go infinite. I seen this motherfucker with a pack of 20 fags, no cigarette.
But yo, it's hard keeping in shape on the tightest budget, so you can find this chubby giant sucking guys to fund his liposuction. Don't ask to jump on a track. Believe you'll be rejected, even though it'd save me cash on the engineer's fee. Forget it, because if you jumped on the track, it'd immediately compress it.
This is a great matchup for Matter, wasn't it? Well deserved.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this one at the time. I mean, I'd been checking Fredo. The first time I'd seen him was when DK went over to Grind Time and he died against Fredo. And it was the one, where he says, about the president's a woman, and it just didn't go off. He died. Right. But Fredo was good, and I always checked him afterwards. So when it came to this battle, and obviously Matter was good too, I was looking forward to this one. But Fredo, when I was saying about tailoring to the crowd, and Fredo really did. I think of the American guys that I've ever seen come over, it wasn't he didn't come with local references of the level that Matter was doing, but he was including it, and he wasn't he wasn't up there. He could have gone there and spat 3 rounds that crowd just wouldn't have related to. And I think he really interacted with the crowd and it worked. But Matter did it a lot better.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, being in West Yorkshire here as well, fuck the West Coast, this is West Yorkshire. Cop will find what appears to be a dead walrus, and it's kind of an extension, really, of the 2-on-2 that went before, a fat American. And Matter is just adept at that sort of attacking style.
Yeah, Matter's really, really good. I mean, he's good and he's rated, but he's still underrated.
He is. I agree, he is definitely underrated. Even though he is probably rated, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like, he's just, he's very good. He's the kind of one that if you were to put him in a battle against the best in the world, whoever you believe that to be, and he probably, you know, there's people that you would give that battle to ahead of him, but he's one that would really, really raise the bar to meet it. I think he's got those levels. But he's also then got the levels that if he went against someone who was rubbish, he's not going to go in there and put a top tier performance in against someone who he's not inspired by. But yeah, he's really, really good. Yeah, he is, and this is a really fun battle. Next up, I guess, again, we might be getting our order a little mixed up here, but you know, they're pretty much in the same ballpark. Nils and Skils versus Uno.
What else? Your mother's a hoe. What else? She gets it down low. What else? Her booty jiggles.
What is
so low.
What else? You're still a fucking rookie, you know? We're different weight classes. You want to be Nils working your freestyle, it takes more than glasses. I have never battled anyone gayer than you. Everyone knows when you speak directly into someone's ear, you're making a move.
Which I guess was one of the first Don't Flop matches, probably not the first, but one of them, where it's just 2 internationals, no homegrown talent.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I can't actually remember what one it was, but I remember one of them being billed as that, and it was the equivalent of someone like Koj battling now, who's like a foreigner who's based here, sort of thing. Sure. But I can't remember. But yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on this one?
Nils, I always struggled with him.
Okay.
Like I was just like I can appreciate the art form and that, but it just wasn't for me. It really wasn't. And I guess if you feel that way with someone, you're going to feel like it all the time if they're always similar.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think Uno was as good in this one. I don't think it was the greatest. I think Nils actually won.
Yeah.
I think I actually gave it to Nils, even though he's not my favourite kind of guy. So.
Yeah, I think Nils sort of... Yeah, I agree. It's not the most fun battle, to be honest with you. I think Nils did Nils, and the crowd, you know, gave or take him. He had some killer flips, sort of answering what Uno had said about fucking his girl and how he can have her and stuff like that. And, you know, that really worked, I think.
That one, yeah, when he said that, I remember Oshea going nuts to that one.
Yeah,
and lots of people, you know, Kruger said something similar to Sharon, and... Oshea sort of said similar things about Flossie like before, and but yeah, I think Nils was probably the first one that kind of did that, and it worked as a flip.
Definitely that sort of self-effacing thing. I mean, we've seen a lot of that in battle rap since, and I don't know if that was the original one, but again, there's a lot of boundaries being broken at this event. This was certainly one of them. So into another battle, someone that I just had on the show, actually, great episode, was Suus, and Suus versus Tony D.
Talking about all that shit that you did a long time before doesn't give you respect, it just proves you're a fucking dinosaur.
Your only option, listen, your only option is to lose to me. Your only option is to lose to me. Round 1 was the buddying. Rounds 2 and 3, your burial and eulogy. Right. Truthfully, they sent a boy to do a man's job. In a standoff, you trying to dash rocks at a tank squad. So anyhow I lose, first thing you do, thank God, then make good on your promise to the judges of a hand job.
This is very much the golden boy versus the establishment, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember this one really well, but I did make a couple notes on this one, and the thing that I wrote at the top was just classic don't flop. Well, no, it's don't flop now versus don't flop then.
Yeah.
And it was like, so it was just like, at the time, I mean, at the time it was a lot closer of a battle than probably it would be now. And it was like, so Zeus had his style at the time, which people have kind of moved on from. And Tony had his style that people probably hadn't grown into yet.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, it was definitely was a real style clash. But
yeah, the epitome of. And I love how Tony brings the age into it as well. And this is I think Tony was literally double Suus's age at this point. It may have been one of the biggest age gaps in battling, perhaps ever. Like, I can't think of many more that are as distinct as this. And Tony says, like, you know, all those years ago, if I'd have listened to that Geordie tart, you'd have been a quarter caste.
Yeah, that's nice.
Fire. And, you know, Suus is good. And I think Suus has just a lot of energy and purpose back then.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, if you were speaking to me at the event, I'd probably have given it to Zeus. Definitely. Like, I would have done at the time, but then you kind of, you grow into, like, to knowing what Tony's about, like, and over the years, and then I watch it back now and it's just Tony. It's just obviously, but at the time I would definitely said Zeus, and I think a lot of people did. But yeah, I mean, it's different. It's weird because Tony probably wasn't, but it just comes down to whose style you kind of appreciate, because it's such a class. Like, Zeus got up there and performed his material to the absolute best of his ability and was good, and it did pop off, and I would have been giving it to him on the day, so he ticked that box. And so you can't judge someone's battle, like, 7 years later or whatever it is, and change your mind. Like, I did give it to Zeus on the day. So yeah, it was a funny one, because I'm talking about the style clash of, like, don't flop then, and, like, don't flop then is called, like, mum jokes and Willie themes, which, like, Tony actually, like, did have a few.
Yeah, he
in
did.
This battle,
Willie Milk he mentions.
And, like, fanny farts or whatever.
Yeah,
it was, so yeah, it's weird. It was a funny battle. It was good though. It was.
Yeah, and for the record, Tony actually wins 3-2. He takes it in the end, but yeah,
Tony always gets the decision.
He does. He literally always does. And I mean, talking about odd decisions, we get to the headline battle, essentially the end of the event. There is an after party as well. Sensa versus Oshea.
Ever since the last battle, the fans have been saying rematch, that's something you gotta do. Their patience been wearing thin like a prolonged stay at a hospital. They've been screaming rematch with YouTube comments through the roof. There's nearly as many comments as there's comments randomly gunning Chronicle.
It's like this is a conspiracy. He's convinced everyone he's a great guy, someone the boss should employ in minutes. I'm the drafted in federal agent. I'm here to destroy the image. You're known, so don't flop do anything they can to give him tests. Buy plane tickets because of his little rep. He chokes in UK battles because he does little prep, because his ego places him above all English threats.
Sensa won this, right? I mean, I know he lost, but material-wise,
I change my mind, all the time on this one. As I say, I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and I actually started leaning towards Osh, and it was like, at the time, it was just this one was a great battle. Like, I mean, I remember the build up to it at the time. I remember the crowd, the stage was so rammed, like, as this battle was about to start, and probably 90% of that stage wanted Osh to win. Probably 99% of the crowd wanted Osh to win, and you felt that. You really, really felt that. And then you had the odd people that just wanted Sensa to win, and, like, people like and Kruger and that wanted Sensa to win. They wanted him to turn up and perform and win against all odds. Everyone else wanted Osh to win, I think, and you really felt that. There was like this real energy in the room. And I remember at the time, I was just like, well, everyone's going nuts for what Osh says. And, I'm friends with both of these guys. That, I don't lean either way. But, like, the crowd were really, at the time, I was thinking they're really going nuts for Osh. Like, and to the degree that Osh actually looked kind of embarrassed by it to a degree, you know, and Sensa's stuff was like way more structured and better on paper and everything else. And but then now I watched it like a couple of weeks ago, and Sensa starts going into that funny rhythm of like rapping, like, and all I'm looking at is people's faces in the crowd are just like, what are you doing? Like, so I mean, it's weird. I can understand people saying either person's won it, because I've changed my mind over the years. But I remember at the time I definitely said Sensa. I remember I saying to Osh, like, I think Sensa got that, and Osh said no, Sensa definitely got that. That was a lot of people felt Sensa got that, but I don't know. Again, it's probably just because the game, in my opinion, has changed over the years on what constitutes winning a battle. Probably has changed, and then when you apply that to this battle, I kind of changed my mind. But I'd maybe watch it again and change my mind again. That makes a good battle, I guess.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, we discussed this at length with both of the guys there. And if I recall correctly, I think Oshea said that he felt that Sensa won. But Oshea was always going to win. He had to be Don't Flop champ for these times. You know, he had to represent in this era. And he was sort of the champion-elect anyway. Even though I think Sensa's material is way better and more interesting ultimately. And I think Oshea's first round especially doesn't really go many places. And, you know, when he says, like, Sensa's having, like, a sympathy child and stuff like that, you know, it hits hard. It hits hard.
I did love it when Osh said about, and I'm taking it there. Yeah, your kid looks like you, but the other two, archaic and her.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's amazing. Like, one of my favourite Oshea lines was in this OT round against Kruger, when he was talking about, like, if we both had a party tonight, which one are you going to? My man would have birds and DJs, her and DK. And it's like a classic Oshea. Like, I love that kind of thing that he comes with.
Yeah.
So simple.
Oh god, yeah. And you know, he obviously wins, becomes champ, and he loses on the first defense, but still, that's another highly debatable battle.
Definitely.
And that pretty much wraps us up to the test 10. I mean, there are a few more battles. I haven't seen Technico versus his kit. Have you seen that?
No.
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 Pamphlet versus Guam. Don't remember that one.
Yeah. I think it's Guam, isn't it?
Guam,
Yeah, I remember he was old forum head. He was, back in the old forum days when I used to be on them as well. And it was like, Guam was always he's an Irish guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really remember the battle though. I know both of the guys.
No, I don't recall. And when I was looking at these battles yesterday, it reminded me that Pamphlet versus ZT actually isn't on Don't Flop anymore. And I messaged Pamphlet and I asked why, because, you know, I remember really enjoying that battle. And he says he doesn't really know, must have been taken off, and that he thinks he won. This is Pamphlet, but I was doing too many at the time to concentrate. I said I'd done 8 in a week at the start, but I think it was really 5. So, you know, he'd done a lot of battles, you know, all in all.
Yeah.
And I think against ZT, he had something like, you look like a Tickle Me Elmo dipped in egg yolk or something like that. He had some really funny lines. But a shame.
I remember that,
yeah. A shame that one isn't online. Because, you know, Pamphlet's Pamphlet, one of my favourite battlers, incredible battler. I remember Oshea versus Zim. I watched this because I did like a compilation of all the best Oshea lines. Check that out on the Battle Resume channel. And the only thing I remember about this battle is, I think this is after the title match as well, so Osh was a bit out of it, whatever. And Zimmer put loads of effort in with loads of rounds, and Osh was just freeing, and it was a bit of a mismatch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it from the time.
No.
But, I mean, I remember what kind of state. I mean, Oshea on day 1 was in a real bad state, but then by the end of day 2, he was kind of, he was all over the place.
And finally, I think the battle most people should seek out from these after-hours sessions, Philly and Pedro versus Sensa and Archaic.
Yeah, I mean, I used to always talk with Sensa at the time, and he used to tell me, you know, I can freestyle, like, and I always used to be like, I doubt it, like, but he always said, like, you know, I can freestyle. So I remember this one being a battle where he was like, look, I'm going to freestyle and I'm going to be good. And it was because like I say, Sensa turned up right at the end of day one, and then this was the night time of day one, I think.
Yeah.
Or was it day? Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's her. I can't
actually,
remember.
that makes more sense. Actually, I think you're right. I think it was on the second day, the first day. Sorry, I think it was on the first day.
Yeah, I can't remember. I didn't go to it though, so I'm not sure. I'm guessing, but yeah, I do remember in this, Sensa just trying to really sort of just freestyle, and Ark was the same. But because I remember there was a lot of ciphers going off that night time, and I remember just being like, "Look, Ark, I want to see you freestyle. You know, I've been watching for years. Like, you're a great freestyler." I remember him just saying, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, if you don't freestyle a lot, you don't stay sharp. And he was like, I'm not sharp like now, like at this moment in time, I'm really not. And I remember it just in that battle, that was the way that it was from my memory. I think that like there was like obviously Pedro was sharp, and he's like he can throw it out. I think that like Swain probably has some like, you know, he freestyled a lot, whereas like Ark maybe a couple of years before would have maybe, you know, won that for him and Sensa. But yeah, it was interesting to actually see Sensa freestyle, because I've always heard about it but never actually seen it myself. But
yeah, I think him and Sketch as well. He's quite a famous example. He's incredible in that battle, and yeah, I mean
so was Sketch. Yeah,
Sketch is amazing. Sketch was amazing. Why wasn't Sketch on to the test 10? What the hell, you know?
He was there. Yeah, he was there. But he didn't make it to the But well, no, actually, I remember that day one was as good as day one was supposed to be. One of the ones that didn't go down was Shotty Yunnan.
Yes, it was on the flyer, and Yunnan's there, but
yeah, and Shotty didn't show up.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, but and I remember Yunnan was really walking around like he wasn't happy.
No, I bet not.
And but that was one, you know, that's one that would have really like improved like what was already a great flyer. But it was a great event all the same.
An incredible event, which I'm sure we've got across here. Please, everyone listening, go check out any of these battles that you haven't heard, any battles that maybe you haven't watched in a few years. The content is fantastic. You know, I've really enjoyed making these notes. I guess, Sean, what's your favourite battle from To The Test 10? What's the one you always point to?
Oh, my favourite was probably Lego Blizzard.
Good choice.
Just because Lego was so good.
Yeah.
Just looking down it quickly, I'd say,
I think, I'll choose another one, but I'd probably maybe pick Lego Blizzard as well with you. Let's go with Ahab versus Flex Digits. It's maybe not my favourite, but I want people to watch this battle because it's a really entertaining battle. I think Ahab killed it. Ahab, I think, was not Pamphlet's tryout, but an early Pamphlet battle that sort of got him the attention of Don't Flop and that sort of stuff. So that was really, really cool. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening, to hearing us go through this. Please follow us at battlerapresume, get in touch with us, Patreon, iTunes, all that sort of good stuff. Sean, is there anything you'd like to promo or anything like that?
No. Just I want to see Don't Flop coming back in some kind of fashion.
Yeah.
As I say, watch out. I haven't got anything to promo myself.
No. Well, this has been great, man. And again, I want to urge people to, subscribe to us, follow us, all that sort of good stuff. And please also check out all these battles. And yeah, Don't Flop. Maybe people listen to this in 2020 and it's the Resurgent League again. Who knows? We don't know where it's going to spiral onto. But this has been great all the same. Sean, thanks again for joining me, man.
Thank you, Tom.